The air in Southeast Asia was thick with humidity, a slow-burning heat that clung to the skin and filled the lungs. It had a sensual weight to it, pressing against the senses and heightening every experience. Emma and Julian stood at the edge of the dense jungle, gazing at the hidden temple before them. The Lotus Palace, as the locals had called it, was both mysterious and alluring. A place wrapped in ancient legends and whispered secrets. They had heard about the Lotus Palace from a guide during their travels in Cambodia. A temple said to be devoted not to gods of war or wisdom, but to the forgotten deities of pleasure and passion. Built centuries ago, it had been a sanctuary for those who sought enlightenment through the body, where the lines between the physical and the spiritual blurred into one. The stories had intrigued Emma, sparking a curiosity deep within her, while Julian had been equally fascinated, eager to explore something so forbidden and ancient. Now, standing at its entrance, they felt the gravity of the place pulling them in. The towering stone walls were covered in delicate carvings of lotus flowers, each petal painstakingly etched with the precision of hands long gone. Vines clung to the temple's surface, wrapping around the stone like lovers in an embrace, as though nature itself had become part of its erotic beauty. "Are you sure we should go in?" Julian asked, his voice low but laced with excitement. His hand brushed against Emma's, their fingers interlacing naturally. He felt the heat of her body next to his, a reminder of their connection, one that had grown deeper and more intense during their journey through these foreign lands. Emma smiled, her green eyes flashing with excitement. "We've come all this way, haven't we? And besides, they say the Lotus Palace reveals itself only to those who are ready." The guide's cryptic words echoed in her mind as they stepped forward, crossing the threshold of the temple. The air inside was cooler, a welcome respite from the oppressive heat outside. The interior was bathed in soft golden light, filtering through cracks in the ceiling where vines and leaves reached down like delicate fingers. The scent of jasmine hung in the air, sweet and intoxicating. As they walked deeper into the temple, they found themselves surrounded by sculptures, figures of men and women, their bodies intertwined in poses of pleasure, their faces serene and content. The carvings depicted acts of intimacy in ways that were both erotic and reverential. There was nothing vulgar or crude about them. Instead, they celebrated the body as a vessel for enlightenment, a path to the divine. Julian's hand tightened around Emma's as they paused before one of the largest statues of goddess with her arms raised, her body arched in ecstasy, her face serene. "This place ... it's like nothing I've ever seen before." Emma nodded, her breath shallow. "It's beautiful," she whispered, feeling a pulse of warmth deep within her. The temple seemed to radiate something, an energy that resonated with the core of her being. It was as though the very walls of the Lotus Palace were alive with the stories of those who had once come here to seek their desires, their passions still lingering in the air. They continued deeper into the temple, their footsteps echoing softly against the stone floor. The farther they went, the more the air seemed to hum with a quiet intensity. The soft light flickered across the stone walls, casting shadows that danced and shifted like living things. Finally, they reached the heart of the temple, a vast chamber with a raised platform at its center. The walls were adorned with intricate murals, each depicting scenes of lovers in various stages of intimate exploration. At the center of the room, a lotus-shaped pool of water shimmered under the dim light, its surface perfectly still. Without a word, Emma and Julian stepped toward the pool. There was something magnetic about it, something that called to them. Emma knelt at the edge, her fingers dipping into the cool water, sending ripples across its surface. Julian knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on her back. "Do you feel it?" Emma asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Julian nodded. "It's like the temple is alive." Emma's heart raced as she stood up and began to undress, her fingers trembling slightly as she unbuttoned her light cotton shirt. The air inside the temple was cool against her skin, a contrast to the heat that now coursed through her veins. Julian watched her, his gaze darkening with desire as he followed her lead, shedding his clothes until they both stood bare before the pool. The soft sound of water echoed in the chamber as they slipped into the pool, the water enveloping them like a lover's embrace. Emma sighed as the cool liquid caressed her skin, her body tingling with anticipation. Julian moved closer to her, his hands gliding over her hips as they floated together, their bodies weightless in the water. The pool seemed to amplify everything they touched, their breaths, the beating of their hearts. Emma could feel the pulse of the temple all around them, the energy of centuries past merging with their own. Julian's hands explored her body with reverence, his touch light and teasing, sending waves of pleasure through her with every caress. This place, it's like it's awakening something inside us, Julian murmured, his lips brushing against her neck. Emma nodded, her eyes half closed as she surrendered to the sensations flooding her body. It's more than that, she whispered, her voice trembling. It's like we're part of something ancient, something sacred. As they moved together in the water, their bodies entwined, Emma felt a deep connection not only to Julian but to the temple itself. The murals on the walls seemed to come to life, the figures of lovers moving in rhythm with them, their passions reflected in the water around them. It was as if the Lotus Palace was guiding them, leading them toward a deeper understanding of desire, of intimacy. Time seemed to lose its meaning as they explored each other in ways they never had before, their bodies and souls merging in the sacred water of the lotus pool. Emma felt a sense of liberation she had never known, as if every barrier between her body and her spirit had dissolved. Here, in this ancient temple of pleasure, there was no shame, no hesitation, only the pure, unbridled expression of love and desire. As the night wore on, the intensity between them grew, the water rippling with the force of their movements. They were no longer just Emma and Julian, travelers from a far-off land. They had become part of the temple, part of its living history. Every touch, every kiss, every breath was a prayer, an offering to the gods of love and passion who had once ruled this sacred place. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to filter through the cracks in the ceiling, they lay together on the stone platform, their bodies spent but their spirits soaring. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and lotus blossoms, and the soft rustle of the wind through the temple walls sounded like the whispers of ancient lovers. Emma turned to Julian, her heart full and her body alive with a new understanding. This place, it's changed us, hasn't it? Julian nodded, his eyes filled with wonder. We've discovered something here, something beyond just pleasure. It's like we've tapped into something sacred, something that connects us to the past, to the future, to each other. Emma smiled, her hand resting on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. The Lotus Palace, it's not just a temple, it's a gateway to something deeper, a place where desire and enlightenment are one and the same. As they lay together in the heart of the temple, their bodies entwined, Emma knew that their journey had only just begun. The Lotus Palace had opened their eyes to a world of sensuality and connection they had never known, a world where pleasure was not a sin, but a path to true enlightenment. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, casting its golden light over the temple, Emma and Julian knew that they had found something far more valuable than any treasure or relic. They had found each other, and in doing so, they had discovered the true meaning of desire. In the depths of the Lotus Palace, where the lines between the physical and the spiritual blurred, Emma and Julian had become part of an ancient legacy, one that would continue to shape them long after they left the lush landscape of Southeast Asia behind. For in the Lotus Palace, desire knew no limits, and love was the ultimate expression of freedom.